I am Professor C.V. Raghavulu. The module for today is Approaches to Public Administration. It has three subtopics: scientific management, classical approach, and bureaucratic approach. First of all, we will take up the traditional or classical approach. This places emphasis upon the structure of the organization, design, and principles of organization. The main concern of this approach is to increase the efficiency of the organization or make changes within the organization or structure with a view to improve efficiency. The second subhead of our unit is the classical approach. The classical approach was developed in the first quarter of the 20th century. Here, the important name that figures is that of Henry Fayol, who made a signal contribution for the development of the classical approach. Other scholars include James Mooney and Alan Reilly. But it was only after the publication of the work by Gulick and Urwick, the work known as Papers on the Science of Administration, published in 1938, that the classical theory became quite significant. There are many important characteristics and assumptions of classical theory. And many of these characteristics are common to scientific management also. Not only the characteristics, but also the approaches to organization change are quite common. The emphasis upon the structure of the organization is one such. It assumes that every organization has a formal structure with rules, principles, and work procedures. And any effort at improvement of the organization has to focus upon all of them. They also place emphasis upon the design of the organization. Another aspect of classical theory is the development of a number of principles of organization. And this is one of the important areas of contribution of the classical school. What are these principles? Division of work, hierarchy, span of control, coordination, delegation, unity of command, centralization, decentralization, and so on and so forth. Now, in order to improve the organizational structure, one has to make interventions in a number of ways, particularly with regard to the application of the principles which have been just now mentioned. Another aspect, which again is common to both classical theory and scientific management, of course, scientific management is a part of classical theory, is that man can be motivated through economic incentives only. It is also called the concept of the economic man. One other element that is common to both Taylorism and these writers is the emphasis upon specialization for improvement of work. That you have to develop specializations within the organization, and you have to train individuals as a specialist for improvement of the organization. They also assume that there is no difference between public and private management or public and private administration with regard to the application of all these principles of management. Many of you might have heard what is known as postcard, POSTCORB. Postcard refers to the various elements of the organization. In this, P stands for planning, O for organization, S for supervision, D for direction, CO for coordination, R for reporting, and B for budgeting. So these various elements of organization have been coined by Golick and Arvik, and they have occupied considerable academic space in the subsequent decades in organization and management work in public administration. Now, Golick and Arvik are considered important in terms of their focus upon unity of command. Now, what does unity of command mean? That an individual employee would be answerable, accountable to only one superior. Okay, not more than one. Unfortunately, this concept of unity of command or subservience to a single center or subservience to one top executive is in some conflict with Taylor's notion of functional supervision. Now, functional supervision requires supervision by more than one individual. Well, there are a few other differences between the classical theory enunciated by Henry Fayol, Mooney and Reilly, and also Arvik and Golick and Taylor. Now we have to move on to the criticisms which have been leveled against the classical theory. One of them is that classical theory lacks universal validity. It is based on experiments in some narrow corners in a very limited number of organizations, or at least its empirical base itself is weak. Once its empirical base is weak, it cannot have universal application. Now, a second criticism is that it lacks sophistication, consistency, and precision. It's not sophisticated enough because a number of principles have been jumbled up. A good prose, a narrative, but not an integrated way of looking at the entire organization. That's one. And it is also inconsistent. Some of the principles are inconsistent, as I'm going to discuss shortly. It also lacks precision. Precision in the sense that, there's a lot of verbosity. There's been a lot of writing, duplication of material. The same things are being repeated time and again, maybe in chapter after chapter. That's one problem. And then it is also considered atomistic, atomistic. Atomistic means that it looks at individuals in isolation from the environment. That individuals or human beings are continuously interacting with others and with the environment. By taking a mechanistic view of individuals, we are not able to come up with generalizations which would have a lot of validity. Then the predilection and preference of the classical theories for structure, rules, and procedures places too much of emphasis upon these. Then finally, it also exhibits a pro-management bias. To the neglect of consideration of the worth and individuality of the workers. And friends, finally, I must also get back to one of the major criticisms made by Herbert Simon. Herbert Simon said that the various principles of the classical school are like proverbs and myths. What does he mean when he says this? Now, each proverb may also have another proverb, that they may not be consistent with each other. And the principles that have been enunciated by the classical theories display the same kind of looseness. And there are principles which are inconsistent with other principles. Let me give you an example. For instance, you have the principle of span of control. In span of control, the lower the number of individuals who report to one superior, the better it is. However, you have another principle which is called hierarchy. And there it is said, the lower the number of levels or gradations in a hierarchy, the better off we are. Now, if you have a lower number of people reporting to each superior, you will have a number of gradations within a hierarchy, number of levels within a hierarchy. So there is a subtle contradiction between the two, that if you have a lower span, you can't have a tight hierarchy. That's it. So Simon goes on arguing, look here, there is a contradiction or inconsistency between one principle and the other principle. The classical approach is only one of the approaches to the study of public administration. In fact, many of these writers have explored matters relating to the organization and management before anybody else did. So in that sense, they have provided the foundations, the building blocks for subsequent work on organization. Of course, the work on organizations became more refined, more sophisticated in subsequent years. But we cannot, looking back at the classical theory, we should not forget their contribution to public administration as such.